Good morning. We're going to go over some maintenance on high speeds and slow speeds, but this is office maintenance. This is a good way for you to endear yourself to the doctor and the office staff. Have the call center call, especially an office that you're having repetitive handpiece problems with that you think may be due to their air pressure or their maintenance procedures or their sterilization in the office. You can have the call center call and set up an appointment when all the girls are going to be there, early in the morning, late in the evening, or one half day when the doctor works, because it's very important the entire staff be there for this. Show up, bring some biscuits, bring some bagels, bring coffee. You'll be the hero. Give them a little impromptu class. This is the way manufacturers' reps do, and all successful people do this. Not only on handpiece maintenance, on everything. But today, we're going to focus on handpiece maintenance. Okay? We're going to go over high speeds with quick disconnects, such as KVOs. Such as layers. A lot of you guys have called with questions about how to lubricate one with a quick disconnect on it. There's two different ways, which we'll go over. We're going to go over proper cleansing and proper purging of the oil after we lubricate, before we sterilize, and we're going to go over sterilization procedure. Today we're utilizing just a regular handpiece tubing with a regular foot control with compressed air to purge the units out with, the handpieces off with, to get the oil broadcasted on the turbine well. And also, this could lead into a good sales opportunity for you. DCI makes a purge unit, and the purge unit is going to be in the sterile area. That's why we're having class in our new improved sterile area, by the way. The handpiece purge unit needs to be in the sterile area. If they're not purging these handpieces before they put them in, they're leaving a lot of oil in the head of the handpieces. Even though the oil is autoclavable, the oil will gum up after so many successive sterilizations. And it will get hard and get very viscous. It will really get gummy, and it will affect turbine life just as bad as if not lubricating it. So it's very important to purge, and we're going to go over the purge. Like I said, you have a sales opportunity here to sell a DCI purge unit. It's the same thing as a Quattro Care, or something as simple as just a foot control with a handpiece tubing. It's all a sales and labor opportunity for you, as well as a good public relations opportunity. And it will keep your warranties on handpieces down as well. Okay, we have just gotten a handpiece in from the operatory, and it's dirty, meaning it's been used. It's been used with the patient, okay? We're going to take the burr out. We've removed the burr. We'll set the burr aside so that it can be cleaned and sterilized appropriately too. First, we're going to wipe the handpiece down with alcohol, and nothing but alcohol, and a 2x2. I hope everybody's familiar by now with what a 2x2 is. Obviously it measures 2x2, and it's cotton gauze. They're in every dental office. We're not going to go too crazy with the alcohol, but in the perforations, in the small grips on the handpiece, that's where bacteria and debris can really lodge. We're going to give it a nice wiping down, okay? You don't dip this in water. Do not rinse it off with water. Do not dip it in water. Do not soak it in water. That will cause rusting. It will cause the handpiece to rust. So, we've given it a nice thorough wiping. Even the tubes. And just look what we've got off the handpiece. A lot of debris. Basically it's oil grime. When they're wiping it after real use in an operatory, they'll have blood, they'll have detritus and debris on it, coagulant. So we've got the handpiece externally clean. Now we're worried about the running of the handpiece, okay? Now we're worried about lubrication, purging, and running. We're going to put our burr or our slug back in the handpiece. And we are actually going to show a couple of different ways of lube. This is a standard 5-hole connector, 4-hole connector that you just screw on. Down the drive air line. Now which one is the drive air again?
The small of the big one.
Smallest of the big. Very good. Always remember the smallest of the big. You guys all learned that in school anyway. Smallest of the big. And don't go crazy with the lube. You want to get your needle down in as far as possible. 1, 2 drops with the handpiece down. Because why? The gravity with the handpiece down actually helps pull the oil down into the turbine. And the turbine's where we want the lubricant. Give it a nice little thump to get the air bubbles out of it. Get the oil distributed. We will put it on our purge unit or either on our handpiece tubing. Now let me give you a few words of caution. A lot of people do this at chair side. They do it on the doctor's unit to purge the handpieces out when they do purge them. You have all taken a unit head or a delivery system cover off and seen oil inside the delivery system. The purging process is exactly where the oil comes from in that delivery system. That can be avoided by a purge unit in the sterile area. Like I said, something as simple as a foot control or a handpiece tubing. I cannot stress it enough. This will save the doctor's delivery system. It will save his fiber optics. We've all seen tubings that are discolored and are very stiff. You could actually hold them out and they would hold straight out. That comes from oil being blown back down the exhaust port. And it causes that tubing to get hard, just like raw pasta. You can avoid that by a purge unit. I cannot stress that enough. Now, we're going to purge the unit. The oil that we put in, we're going to purge the excess oil out so that it doesn't gum in the sterilizer. And so that it broadcasts, meaning we get a good spray over all the bearings and all the impellers and all the working parts in the handpiece head. Now let's purge. Now we've purged and we've distributed the oil. Certain handpieces are going to purge with more debris coming out of them than others, okay? Now, step 2 in the lubricating process. Let's actually take the burr out, or your slug. While we hold the chuck open, meaning to press the button, or with the chuck open, we're going to drop 1, 2 drops of oil in the chuck. This is especially important on a star handpiece. Put the burr back in. Purge it. Always stress to the office staff that it is so very important to seat the burr in all the way until it bottoms out. It's an unsafe condition if they don't. You want that burr bottomed all the way in that handpiece. Otherwise you'll get a burr not being concentric, or you will get burr whip. It will damage your turbine and your hard work on that turbine impeller that you built out in the truck to put in here. If that burr's not all the way in, it will throw it off balance and you'll have problems. We're going to do a light, nice little purge again. We're ready for sterilization. We take the handpiece off the line, put it in an autoclave bag, one handpiece at a time. A lot of girls, a lot of offices pop them in, pow, 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 pow. Let's take the burr out before we sterilize. You want 1 per bag. Before you do that, you always want to make sure and check that the gasket is intact on the handpiece. Let me show you a couple of handpiece gaskets here. in the raw. This is a handpiece gasket. I hope everyone can see. Let me hold it in my meat hooks here. So now, a lot of your problems are going to be due to no handpiece gasket or a bad handpiece gasket. Your problems are going to be you'll feel air between the connector and the handpiece on the delivery system. And you'll also have spotty water spray, and you'll also have water dripping down the doctor's wrist, all because the gasket's falling off. These gaskets are bad to distort after so many sterilization cycles, meaning distort. They lose their retention. They'll just fall off the back of the handpiece. And it's very easy to throw them away. This handpiece will not work without a gasket. No handpiece will work without a gasket. It may turn, you may think it's working, but when you hit the two surface with the burr, you will not have any torque. You won't get anything but noise. So always check your handpiece gaskets. Ladies and gentlemen of the office staff, you should keep a couple of these in stock. They're very inexpensive. Keep some in a drawer because you are going to lose them. Also, at the end of the sterile cycle, when you take the handpiece out of the bag, turn the bag upside down and give it a nice little shake and see if there's a gasket in it if you don't see a gasket on the butt end of the handpiece. Now, that being said, let's pack the handpiece for sterilization. See how we have an autoclave bag? Plastic front, paper back. We all learned this in school. Let me refresh your memory. Put the handpiece in, peel the adhesive back, you're ready to sterilize. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the office staff, are we going to put the plastic up so we can see what we're sterilizing? Or are we going to put the plastic down?
Plastic down,
Plastic down. Where are we going to put the plastic down, young lady?
because the heat rises.
The heat and the steam rises. Drying this handpiece properly is every bit as important as sterilizing this handpiece properly. If you don't dry this handpiece properly, everything we just did, lubrication, wipe down, we did it for naught. This handpiece has to be able to be dried. When we dry the handpiece, when we sterilize the handpiece, we're going to put it down in the tray and put this tray in the sterilizer. Make sure we sterilize it and run in a good drying cycle. Okay? It's exactly the way it goes. But you got to have autoclave bags. And you can't reuse the autoclave bags, and you can't pack a bunch of them into the autoclave bags because you'll damage the handpieces. And handpieces are expensive. By the way, the doctor should have 5 handpieces per operatory, not per office, but per operatory for proper turnaround. If the doctor's giving you 2 or 3 handpieces a month to repair and they're the same handpieces, the man ain't running enough handpieces. There's a sales opportunity for you. You guys know that I'm more technical oriented than I am sales, so when I say sales, there's definitely an opportunity there. Okay? Whenever I mention sales, it's definitely a sure thing. Okay? So make sure the doctor has plenty of handpieces for rotation. Now let's look at a couple other different kind of handpieces. Let's look at a Cavo. Nice handpiece. Except we don't know how to lube it. Harry, how do you lube this handpiece? Paul, how do you lube this handpiece? Parker, how do you lube this handpiece? There's 2 ways, guys. Cavo makes a spray. Vector makes a spray that is very similar to Cavo. Okay? We're going to discuss both ways. We've already, on our other handpiece, wiped it down with the alcohol and went over the prerequisites. Now, let's look at the lubrication of a QD style handpiece. With our spray, our Vector spray or our Cavo spray, one or the other, it's shaped just like the coupler. You give it a nice little drink. Don't go nuts. This stuff is expensive. That little squirt right there, I'd say that was about a $4.50 squirt. Okay? Now, chuck-wise. Remember to lubricate the chuck. This is a step many of us omit, and this is an important step. Just a kiss, okay? We'll put the burr back in. Okay? We sprayed it. The spray broadcasts the lubricant very good. The spray is not just lubricant, it is a cleaner in lube. It degauzes, it cleans the debris out, cleans the powder out left over from the bearings where bearings disintegrate and so forth. Now, this is how you lube when you don't want to use the connector, or either the connector is made onto the handpiece tubing, okay? With the spray. It has to be purged out as well. You always want to purge any lubricant. Okay. Now, if we don't have spray, which I don't think many of you do on the trucks, guys, I would like to invite you to purchase a can of Vector spray to keep on the truck with the appropriate nozzles. If you don't, shame on you, and I'll show you how to get by it for substitute. Your drive air holes with the connector on, with the quick connect. The drive air is what again? Smallest of the big. 1, 2. Thump, 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 thump. We're going to do a light purge. This is a 6-pin ISO, so it won't fit exactly. But now we've purged. We're ready for sterilization and to pack the same way. To pack and sterilize after we take the burr out. You don't want to sterilize with the burr in. Always sterilize with the burr out of the handpiece, okay? That lets the steam go in the chuck, kill all the bacteria. Now let's look at the layers. Same way. Oh my goodness, we don't have a we have a spray, but we have a male connector, okay? Okay. Nice little drink there with the spray. We'll put the connector on. Screw the connector onto our purge tubing or our handpiece tubing. Now, just for our purposes, we're going to use a white cloth to see exactly what purges out of these, okay? Okay, there are little black flecks, there's hunks of oil, and I assure you it wasn't relubricated. It wasn't meant to be that way. That's why we need to purge these hand pieces, to get this debris out. Can you see that? Ooh, did you see it come off the burr? See it come off the burr? That would actually cook into a thick, viscous mixture if it were not purged. Even the canned lube needs to be purged, okay? So we're purged. We're ready to lube, we're ready to sterilize this one. Now you tell me you don't have the can on the truck, or the doctor doesn't have the can. We're going to do it the same way we did the Cavo with the drip bottle, okay? I'm disconnecting the purge tubing. I'm holding the handpiece. I got the oil. What's drive air? Smallest of the big. All right. 1, 2 drops, okay? A nice little peck to get it down to the tubing, down to the turbine. Reinsert. Purge again. Oh my goodness. We're still getting debris.
Yep.
Look at the debris that come out of it. Purging is very important. This debris, if this doctor's cleaning hand pieces, let's say 20 times a day, and he's doing it in a delivery system, that's 20 times that crapola that's getting into a delivery system and absolutely ruining the delivery system. Making the tubings hard and brittle, building up in the bottom of the delivery system, has a chance to leak down on a patient. The oil does. Doctor, you have an unsatisfied patient when oil leaks down on a patient. That's why I want you to stress to your doctors to get a purge unit. I'm not trying to create income for you. I'm trying to create practicality and realism for you. Like I said, I reiterate, even if it's just a used foot control with a tubing on it, hooked to an air source. Most of your modern sterile areas have an air source in them. They'll have an air valve. It may not be sticking right up on the wall in front of you. It may be under the counter, but most, 98% of them are going to have air source. So you can do this. It also saves time. Doctor, if your assistant doesn't have to run to the chair and do it, that's 20 seconds to the chair. That's a minute for her to screw the handpiece onto the chair, and another 20 seconds for her to purge, and another 20 seconds back. You've wasted about 3 minutes with her running back to purge this handpiece. If you don't purge the handpiece, you've wasted whatever you spent on the turbine, $129, $130 at least. Doctor, I don't think, I know you do good, but I don't think you've got the money. We can cut down your operating costs. That's why you retain us, to do that. Also, what if there's a patient in that chair when you need to purge the handpiece out on that delivery system? There's a million what ifs, and they will all come to fruition. Purge unit, hands down. Saving money, saving time. Okay? So we've purged. Oh my goodness. See, we keep getting debris out of it. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't for the office staff. When you do a turbine, I'll reiterate this on my maintenance procedures. The next tutorial will do. Don't ever start a handpiece up dry. Meaning, after you rebuild a turbine, don't put that handpiece on a tubing and hit the rheostat or the foot control and make it spin. Put some lube in it first. It's just like starting your car up with no oil in it. All right, give it a drink from the get-go and it will serve you well, okay? From the get-go, meaning from the time you put the turbine in, okay? This is protecting the doctor's investment as well as your investment. Now, when we sterilize the handpieces with the quick disconnects, we don't sterilize the quick disconnects. They're not autoclavable, okay? The handpiece is. We would take the burr out, with the button depressed, just a little skosh of a drink of oil there. Bag it. And it is ready to go in the sterilizer with our other handpiece. Okay? Okay. Now, let's talk a minute about the drying cycle again. I reiterate, make sure that plastic's down and the paper's up, because the steam will actually rise out of the paper and help dry the handpiece better. You want that handpiece as dry as possible. You also want that handpiece, the cycle, to go as quickly as possible for a handpiece. The less that handpiece is exposed to 270, the longer that handpiece will last. But it has to be exposed to 270 for efficient sterilization. But it only has to be exposed at 270 degrees for 4 minutes. Okay? That's where the Statum cassette sterilizer comes in handy, because it's small and it has a quick cycle. Boom, boom, boom. You have a 3-minute cycle. One of the cycles is 3 minutes exposure time on a Statum. You can't beat it to make the handpieces last longer. All your new mid-mark sterilizers, they have a handpiece. They have a handpiece cycle on them, a very quick handpiece cycle, to expose the handpiece less to more catastrophic temperatures. Okay. Okay, we've got the sterilization down. Let's talk a little bit about slow speeds. We get a lot of slow speeds in SER down here. This is one of the old ones. This is a Midwest True Torque. A lot of your older guys, like Paul, are going to have this. Okay. Good handpiece. A lot of hygienists still use them. But, guys, how many of you have went to an office and it's welded onto the tubing? You've had to take a pair of pliers to get it off the tubing. This handpiece is not used invasively most of the time, meaning it doesn't get blood on it. So they don't have to sterilize this handpiece. By the way, the older slow speeds, unless it has a sterile icon on it, this is not an autoclavable handpiece. If you autoclave it, you'll tear it up. You sterilize it. But still, you want to make sure that this handpiece is lubricated once a week. And they never, you're lucky if the staff lubricates them once a year. Ladies and gentlemen of the staff, Miss Hygienist, you have got to lubricate this handpiece. It's got to be lubricated. It will lay down on you when you least expect it if you don't. You also have to maintain the gaskets on them. Okay. Now, a lot of you have left your handpieces on your handpiece tubing so long, like I said, they've welded to it. There's one or two things you can do to prevent that from happening if you get an account that that's happened to. By the way, the world's worst about welding to a line is a Midwest RDH handpiece. The Midwest RDH has aluminum threads. This connector's aluminum. Two light metals in engineering never work out. There's two things you can do, guys. You can put a thin coating of oil on the threads. That keeps them from bonding. Or even better than that, Vaseline. Put a thin coat of Vaseline on the threads before you screw it on to the connector. And that way, next week, every week, next week, Miss Hygienist, you'll be able to unscrew this, or Miss Assistant, and lubricate properly. Now let's talk a little bit about the lubrication for a slow speed. This is a 4-hole slow speed, right? 4 holes. Where are we going to lubricate this one?
Diver.
Drive air. Very good, Carlos. And drive air is
Second to the biggest.
smallest to the biggest. You got 2 big ones and 2 small ones. Drive air is the smallest to the biggest. Let's get the needle down there. Pow, 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 pow. 2 drops. This is very much a neglected part of the office, guys. The slow speeds. Like I said, they rust under the lines where they're never maintained. Now we're going to purge it. Forward and reverse. Now the oil is distributed, and that's all you have to do on the Midwest slow speed. This is a very, very durable handpiece. Okay? Now, what are we making sure of that's on the butt end of the handpiece on the threads? What do we always look and make sure that's on?
The gasket.
The gasket. Very good. It just don't work good without a gasket. You lose too much air pressure on the interface. Okay? Now, guys, if you have a problem with a slow speed, and it's definitely a mechanical problem, an internal problem that needs a rebuild, send it to SER. Okay? Slow speeds can be very rambunctious and very temperamental. It's best just to pass them on to SER for the time being, okay? Are we going to autoclave this? Are we going to sterilize it? No, we don't see a sterile icon on it. Okay. Now let's look at the Star Titan. The Star Titan is not autoclavable either. Doesn't have an autoclavable icon on it. You guys will get so good that you can look at the handpiece and tell how old it is when it says Starflight on it. That's old. Handpieces weren't required to be sterilized until 88, 87, 88. So this handpiece was built before this. Like I said, most Star slow speeds you see, Titans, and most Midwest doctors still have them because, excuse me, they were their school handpieces. They were the handpieces they were issued in school. They're always either going to be a Star or a Midwest, okay? In this case, we're dealing with the Star motor only, okay? What's missing off of this one, guys?
Gasket.
Gasket, very good. Very, very, very good. Now, this one still needs a drink. They're lube-free Stars. The newer Titans are lube-free. It will be specified by LF, which means lube-free. It still don't hurt to lube it, okay? Drive air hole, drink, 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 okay? Now let's hook this bad boy up, purge it and see if it works. Okay, this is without an attachment, okay? Okay, we got forward, we got reverse, we got neutral. This motor works wonderfully. By the way, guys, on a Star handpiece, on a lot of our Tech brand handpieces, TEK brand handpieces, Micro Mega handpieces, a lot of your handpieces like this, they have a reverse, they have a directional ring on them. Mr. Wright, my slow speed's just not working. See, it's just not working. Most people aren't even aware that there's a directional control on these handpieces that you can go forward and reverse. So the one time that they do decide to pick up an alcohol 2x2 and clean it and wipe it down, they turn the speed control ring. So always listen. This is where your listening skills that we at corporate espouse, and it's on your reports where listening skills actively displayed by the franchisee. This is where your listening skill turns in. You got to know what you're listening for.